Hello and welcome to Broadway Buddies, where buddies banter about Broadway. In our inaugural show, we will discuss the most recent Broadway news and rumors for the week of May 29th. And after that, we will review The Humans, a play currently showing at the Helen Hayes Theater. Joining me this week, and hopefully if this goes well every week, is David Buchanan, who is a theater writer for GoldDerby.com, and John Bonazzo, a writer for the New York Observer covering tech and the media world. And I am James Demetriades, and I'm just a law student who really likes theater. But let's get things started by introducing both of our guests and co-panelists here. David, John. So our first topic in the news section that we wanted to discuss today was Tuck Everlasting, and it closed on Sunday after 28 previews and 39 regular performances at the Broadhurst Theater. Tuck earned only a single Tony nomination for Best Costume Design, and as of last week, it only grossed $325,000-ish out of a potential $1.1 million. I did not get a chance to see the show, but I believe, David, did you see the show?
I did. Yeah, I saw it, I think during the first or second week of previews.
And what did you think of it?
I'm not surprised it's closing, to be honest. The best thing I can say about it, it was certainly inoffensive and nice family fare. I certainly felt it was me and a friend of mine who's also, a recent college graduate, and I feel like we both felt we were way too old to be in the room. It was kind of a family show
really?
it was a family show that I think didn't play to the whole family very well, unfortunately.
Okay.
There was nothing bad about the show. It's just nothing remarkable about it either, and I think that's why it's closing early and it didn't really capture an audience. I know the movie, the play is based on the novel from the 1970s. I know the movie was quite popular and the book is still very widely read, so in that regard I'm kind of surprised it didn't have a little bit longer shelf life as it was pulling fans of the book and the movie. But in terms of quality alone of the show, there was just nothing strong enough that I guess enticed audiences to come.
Now, did you feel that it talked down to the younger audience while being so dumb that the parents couldn't even be entertained by it? I'm always struck by how Disney Theatrical always manages to make family shows that are pretty decently balanced for everyone. You feel like that balance wasn't there?
Yeah, I do, and it wasn't that it was pandering to an audience or it felt too little kiddish. It wasn't as clever as, say, Aladdin, or I haven't seen this production of Aladdin, but James, when you and I have talked about it offline, the thing that we've said about it is that Aladdin acknowledges what it is and its camp factor, and it really plays to that strength, and that's something I think that Tuck Everlasting did not do, unfortunately. And another comment I'll make, and John, I know you've seen other shows of his. Casey Nicholaw directed Tuck Everlasting, and everything about this musical, everything about the musical should have been intimate. And I think Casey Nicholaw, as great as he is, and I love some of his earlier works, just he's too big. Everything that he does is too large-scale production number for a story that really should have been more intimate. So, John, I know you didn't see Tuck Everlasting, but you've seen other Casey Nicholaw work. So, would you agree with that? What do you think?
Definitely. You mentioned Aladdin, which basically, I loved Aladdin, but the best parts of it are the splashy production numbers with the genie, Friend Like Me, etc. The Book of Mormon isn't splashy per se, but it's a very broad musical comedy. The same goes for Something Rotten, his other show currently on Broadway. He's done Spam-A-Lot. His specialty is slapstick, broad, comedic stylings. So this sort of more intimate family sort of story. Again, I didn't see the show, but it definitely seemed like an odd fit
Yeah, and something else that's a good
Now,
point too. Oh, sorry, James. No, I was just going to say,
no, go.
yeah, the runtime I thought was too long too. We're talking about it being an intimate show. I think the novella is very short, and there was no reason for it to be 2 acts and 2 hours long. It really would have done better, I think, had it been a 1 act, 90 minute, or 100-minute show. Uh, Keep the audience in the seat with no intermission, hold them for the duration of the show, cut down, trim down of some of that fat. I think that would have helped it tremendously.
Now, and just one last point, because I'm a big fan of Something Rotten, and actually that will be the next thing we discuss. I'm kind of interested to hear about the fact that Aladdin, Something Rotten, Book of Mormon, Spamalot all are in that flashy, slapstick, showy type of productions. Like, they are very showy. Do you feel that the show could have been salvaged should it not only have adopted a smaller, shorter thing, but also more intimate? Would you have done a smaller cast? Do you feel like it was too flashy for the story it was trying to tell?
Yeah, I think so. The cast size is pretty small, and there are some moments in the show that kind of call for a larger ensemble. Towards the end of the first act, there's a carnival scene, and they need, obviously, a crowd. So there were ways that they used the ensemble well. There were ways that they used the ensemble very poorly, in my opinion, where they had a lot of people on stage when you really didn't need them on stage at all. So there were moments that they used the ensemble and the size of the ensemble really well, and there were moments when it was a hindrance to the intimacy of the show and the narrative.
Okay, awesome. And that serves as a really perfect transition point, I guess, to our second piece of news for the day. Something Rotten has announced a whole new lineup of new principal players that will begin in July.
Yeah, so I have the Playbill news bulletin up here. So the biggest casting, Brian D.R.C. James is leaving, and as of June 2nd, Rob McClure of most recently Noises Off, also Honeymoon in Vegas, and his star role on Chaplin will take over next week. And then they also announced shortly thereafter a few additional castings as well. Josh Grissetti will be joining the cast, as well as Leslie Kritzer and Catherine Bonnell. So they will be playing Nigel Bottom. So that's the brother, Bea Bottom. Yep. Bea Bottom will be played by Leslie Kritzer, and then Portia will be played by Catherine. So they join a little bit later on, July 16th. So this is the first really. What's so notable about these notices is these are the first turnovers in the cast. So I'll be really interested to see how the show continues and lives, and if it thrives based on some of these really well-known theater actors leaving these roles. What do you guys think? James, I know you saw the show 4 times, so we'll hand it over to you to talk about.
So yeah, I saw the show on its first preview, somewhere around its 10th preview. I saw it on opening night, and then I've seen it one time since. And I'm a big fan of the show. I think it's really clever. I think it does a lot of things really well, and I think it is a new classic musical that does a lot of things right, more than it does wrong. And first with Rob McClure, I've seen his last 3 shows. I've seen Noises Off, I've seen Honeymoon, unfortunately, and I've seen Chaplin. And Rob's a great actor. He's very charismatic. He is energetic. He carries a show, and everyone in the audience is immediately sympathetic when he walks on the stage, whether it was when he was the bumbling assistant in Noises Off or when he was, Charlie Chaplin trying to make something for himself. However, the role of Nick Bottom, Nick Bottom? Yep. Brian Darcy James brought this arrogant self-assurance to cover up crippling self-doubt. And it was this really, really well-balanced thing because, the first number he sings is I Hate Shakespeare, which to anyone who is a fan of theater is an immediately, revolting sentence. Like, oh, what is this jerk thinking, that he's better than Shakespeare? And, we realize through the course of the play that it's actually Shakespeare, or how the play portrays Shakespeare, that is, conceited and self-centered. And so I'm really curious to see Rob take on a role that he isn't